the mission of Your Rich BFF is to help teach personal finance to anyone who's ever felt like they've been left behind by the financial system.
Hey, Vivian, welcome to the show. How are you?
Good. How are you? Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. I'm very excited to talk about, personal finance today, right? So many people are still confused on what it is and how to do things. And they know we're going to go more in detail later on, right? But and before we get started, we have like this little new, let's say, little framework called MAP. Basically, it's the mission, the achievements, and the purpose. And then also like, why do you do what you do?
Yeah, I would say that the mission of Your Rich BFF is to help teach personal finance to anyone who's ever felt like they've been left behind by the financial system. So for a very long time, in particular in the US, financial services has only really catered to you if you were old, already rich, white, and a man. And I don't know if you can tell, but I don't fit any of those. So I really felt like personal finance wasn't for someone like me. And it wasn't until I got my own mentor on Wall Street when I started my first job that she started to teach me personal finance. And it was so helpful to be able to learn from someone that I considered a friend, someone that I looked up to, someone who liked to do the same things as me and was like a real person. So what I ended up doing was I started my career on Wall Street as a trader. And when I left and went to a new industry, tech and media, all of my new friends and my new coworkers were like, will you help explain finance to us? And I was like, sure, why not? It's like not that hard. And so a little line started to form at my desk with so many people wanting to ask questions. And because of that, I was getting annoyed because I could barely get my regular job done. So I said, you guys, I'm going to put this information on the internet. I made my very first video on TikTok and it ended up going totally gangbusters, viral. And I was really shocked, but kind of pleasantly surprised at how much people wanted to learn about personal finance. And since then, I have grown to over 6 million followers across 8 different platforms. We have a chart-topping podcast called Net Worth and Chill. My book, Rich AF, comes out December 26th this year. I'm so excited for that. And we just have so many cool projects in the works. And I think we have stuck really true to the ultimate mission of just helping make personal finance more accessible for everybody.
Congratulations on what you built so far. Any achievements that you want to share with us, like, something that you're really proud of?
Yeah, I would say there's certainly the quantifiable stuff, right? I made the Forbes 30 under 30 list. I've been two-peat Forbes top creators, top 50 list. I've been a Webby honoree. I've gotten all of the, accolades, and that's great. But I would say that the most rewarding and the biggest accomplishments for me are just some of the personal messages that I get, emails that I get. I had a woman who emailed me and was like, because of you, I started a high yield savings account for my emergency fund. I have paid off $20,000 worth of debt and I'm finally investing in a Roth IRA for the first time. I had done a video about a resource called missingmoney.com where you can basically go and check the government database of things like security deposits or insurance payouts or what have you, basically money that you are owed, but the person who owes you that money can't find you, whether you changed and moved or changed your number, changed your email, changed your address. And a woman told me that tragically, when her late husband passed away, she didn't know that he had a life insurance policy. And because of my video, she checked this website and she was going to be getting a 7-figure life insurance policy payout. And she literally said, you single-handedly have changed the trajectory of my life. And
wow.
I mean, there's nothing that can replace that feeling.
I can imagine. And so, because of that, right, these relationships with like people, followers, let's go, a bit back when you said, going from Wall Street, right, to social media. You did this video, go viral. What happened after that? Like, did you have like an agenda, like calendar of like, things to do? Was it natural for you to create content and manage like, these relationships with your followers from the beginning? Or is that something that you learned along the way? And if so, any mistakes that you did like during that journey?
Yeah, so it certainly wasn't this evil mastermind plan to become a creator. I made that first video when I saw that it went viral. I was like, oh, what do we do now? I didn't know. But when I started creating content, what I really love so much about social media is that it is a renewable resource. You make one video and you get thousands of comments, and a lot of them are questions. So it's not like I have to keep thinking of new ideas. Like, the new ideas are right there in the comments. I just have to respond to people's questions. I didn't see it as a career. It was just something I was doing for fun. It wasn't until I was starting to get opportunities that were so cool, so amazing, that I had to turn down because I didn't have the time or the bandwidth, that I came to the realization that like I couldn't feasibly do both. I'll say taking Your Rich BFF full time was the best decision I've ever made in my entire life. No, second best decision. The best one was meeting my fiance and having such a great supportive partner, because he was actually the one who really recommended I take a leap of faith. And when I was so stressed about all of the money stuff, I was like, what if I can't afford stuff? Like, what if, you have to help me? And he was like, yeah, it's fine. Like, I have a finance job still. No one's going to go hungry on my salary. Like, I'll take care of us. You just focus on trying to do what you want to do.
Have you noticed, like, when you give like advice, with personal finance, especially maybe with younger generation, have you noticed, like, especially on social media, any recurring like mistakes or patterns of like things that they do wrong when it comes to debt? Have you identified maybe the top 3 or something like that?
When you start making some real money, you probably got a credit card, maybe in college, maybe as you became beginning your adult life, and it's probably like a kind of crappy card. It doesn't give you that much in rewards and points. And you start making some real money, you're like, oh, I can get the extra super special deluxe card now. So you go and try to cancel the first one. You think you're being responsible. You don't want all of these outstanding lines of credit. But that actually dinged my credit history really badly, because it shortened the length of time that the credit bureaus could look at to prove that I was a responsible credit user. So I think people make that mistake a lot by closing their first credit card. Do not do that. Social media is awesome because it's really democratized a lot of things, but it's also given us a window into, frankly, lifestyles that are none of our business. When you look online and you see all of these celebrities flying on their private jet and buying these $100 million mansions and going to vacation in Bora Bora or the south of France, and everybody's in Positano or Capri or Mykonos or whatever. Like, you think that's reality. You think you should be on vacation every single week. I spent a lot of my early 20s spending money that I didn't have on things that I didn't need to impress people I didn't even like. And it was just such a waste. And I think for me now, as I'm getting a little bit older and have limited time and more money, I'm really mindful about how I spend, both in terms of my free time, but also my savings and my cash. And then last but not least, I would say, as it goes to paying off debt, it can be really, really overwhelming. And a big issue that I find is that when people see a number that is so insurmountably large and they feel like they're never going to be able to pay it off, they kind of just say, screw it, YOLO. I'm going to bury my head in the sand. I'm going to live my life. I'm going to do whatever I want. And it's not my problem. Certainly is not an evil thing. Debt is not morally good or bad. It's a tool. And when you have debt, I think the smartest thing, whether you decide to pay it off fast or pay it off slow, whatever, is just to make a plan. And I think a lot of people are so overwhelmed, they don't make a plan and they just want to forget about it and pretend like it doesn't exist. And that doesn't help anybody.
Thank you for sharing those. And please, later on during the interview, for the episode, if you have any other tips that you want to share with us, please do. And so on the one side, right, there is the spending. On the other is like making money, right? And in the other previous episodes, we talk about, of course, the creator economy, influencer marketing, how influencers are making money, right? Before, it was primarily brand deals. And nowadays, there are so many other ways, right? Paid media, like, placement, of course, like a newsletter, monthly subscription, exclusive content, podcast ads, merchandising. You have a book coming up soon. So tell us a bit more about, like, how do you diversify your revenue stream on a monthly basis?
When I started, the first way that I made money was through the platforms. So you have things like the Creator Fund, or I guess it's called the Creator Beta right now, like the Beta Creativity Program on TikTok. So I was getting a very, very small payment from platforms. There were in-feed ads on Meta platforms. There's YouTube AdSense. There's like the Snapchat Crystals program, Pinterest. Like everybody had some sort of program where you could make a little bit of money. I want to be fully clear. That little bit of money was not even enough to cover my rent. But it was nice to be rewarded for doing something I was already doing. So I'm like, sure, I will take, $1,000 a month. Great. Then I started penning brand deals. And this is still, to this day, where the vast majority of my income comes from. This is where I take on partnerships and they pay me so that the BFFs don't have to pay me. That helps me pay my rent, buy my food, save for retirement, do all the things that I want to do in my life while still giving my audience the content that they want. On top of that, I did launch my podcast, Now Worth and Chill. You can find it wherever you get your podcasts. And that podcast, again, runs ads in between, certain segments of the podcast. Again, the podcast is free to listen to. And, the ads really help support that programming and help me pay for things like the time it takes to do the research, or renting out a studio if I'm not in New York and I need to actually film the podcast somewhere. And then the book, I received an advance, and basically my goal is to sell as many copies of this book as humanly possible to help make that advance back for my publisher. After that, and it will take a while, frankly, but I will be entitled to a royalty, a couple cents for every book sold. I also do speaking events. Overall, I've been able to diversify my business into just one or two lines of business and income streams to closer to, I'd like to say, 5 to 7 income streams. And that's helped me feel really confident about the direction that the business is heading in.
Is your brand ready to amplify its reach? Well, the Influencer Marketing Factory is here for you. We are a global influencer marketing agency helping brands ignite their growth. From influencer identification to campaign strategy, handling legalities and agreements, to managing shipping and logistics, we got you all covered. We work with hundreds of brands across different verticals, from Fortune 500 companies to direct-to-consumer brands. And we don't just stop there. With detailed ROI analysis, we help brands like yours measure success, transforming impressions into conversions. You can find us at theinfluencermarketingfactory.com or just searching the Influencer Marketing Factory on Google. And, in addition also, to revenue stream, helping out the others, what also find fascinating is that more and more content creators that started alone, usually from their, room in their apartment, right, making videos, then it expanded not only in terms of revenue, but actually managing a team. You also have a team, right?
Yeah.
When did you decide it was the right time to start hiring someone to help you? And what was that function at the beginning?
I have a very strong understanding of social media, digital media. It is, my bread and butter. It's what I did for my day job for almost 4 years. And I felt very confident doing social media on my own. But I started to think about other things I wanted to do. I wanted to have a podcast. I did not know A from Z when it came to podcasting. I wanted to have my own book. Couldn't tell you where to begin to start pitching publishers. And I was like, okay, I need help to do the things that I want to do. And there are people who are going to be better at it and better equipped to do it than me. And that's when I was like, I think I should start hiring for a team. I was very fortunate. I actually built my team very backwards versus most other talent. I had a career mentor. Her husband worked in the entertainment business in LA, had a friend. That guy had a friend of a friend, and that woman became my attorney. Then it got to the point where every single night I was going to sleep with 30 unread emails in my inbox because I just didn't have the time to get to those emails because I'd been working my 9-to-5 job all day. So I was telling my attorney this, and she was like, I think you might want to consider management. So she introduced me to another woman, and that woman is now my manager. That was great. And for a while, she was managing all of the businessy, emailing people back and forth. My attorney was managing the contracts. I was creating the content and just trying to build out the business. Then it got to the point where I was like, okay, I asked my manager, I was like, how do I pitch a book? And she's like, I have helped talent do this before, but with what you're doing, you may want to consider an agent. And I'm like, okay. My manager then calls 3 people, or it was like a handful of people. She called a bunch of people. And we narrowed it down to 3 different agencies and had meetings with all 3. I speed dated all of them, and ended up deciding to sign with WME. And that was a huge game changer, right? Because I had a point agent, I had a book agent, I had a TV agent, a podcasting agent, I had everything. And now I have somebody who is an expert at every single thing I want to do. I don't have to be the expert. They can be the expert. And that gives me the freedom to really focus on the one thing that no one can do as well as I can, and that's be your rich BFF.
Also wanted to ask you, what is working on social media these days? Have you found is there any new type of content? Is it a format? How do you approach that? Have you find something that works for you and you're keeping with that? Or are you one of those creators that try all the time to be hey, let's get excited with something new every single month?
I am malleable because when I find something that works, I'll lean in. But as we all know, the algo on every single platform changes month to month, week to week, day to day. And there is nobody, unless it's literally the person on the product team making the changes, who knows exactly what those changes are going to be. And if I'm seeing a different format, a different style, a different type of content really performing, I will go and lean into that and A/B test it and see if it works better than what I'm currently doing. That said, I would say short form video really is the bread and butter of what I do. I'm also starting to really get into images, carousels, text. And I think the type of content I create will, evolve as social media platforms evolve and start to prioritize different types of content.
And how difficult it is, in your opinion, these days with all this competition for short form video to go from short form video to either long form video or to moving, let's say, people from a YouTube short to your podcast, right? Because many times you just watch things and you scroll on the other one. Have you find a way for you to bring some of the audience from one platform or the other, or is still depending on luck or, again, the algorithm or what happens on that specific content?
What I'd like to say is I actually don't feel the need to drive and grab the same people from one platform to take them to the next. I like that my audience is unduplicated on different platforms because it means my reach is actually that much bigger. I think that content finds its audience, and my audience looks very different on different platforms, right? I would say my audience on Meta platforms is heavily millennial. My TikTok audience skews a little younger than that. My Snapchat audience skews even younger than that. My YouTube audience skews a little bit more male. My Pinterest audience skews much more female. So I think there's just very differing values that each platform brings, and I'm happy to use all of them.
And do you create different contents for each of them because of the different personas and on each different medium, or do you tend primarily to record the same and then post it across different channels?
I certainly do a lot of reposting, but if there's something that I think is going to particularly perform on a platform, I will make different content for that platform.
And is there any platform out there? You mentioned several, right? But is there anyone that is maybe more, up and coming that you think, or maybe that people are not really looking at?
With all of the changes currently happening at X, Twitter, whatever it's called now, I do think there's a reality where Threads, the Meta text platform, can really make a huge splash. But I do think they have a long way to go to make sure the functionality and the features are where consumers want them to be.
Interesting. Is there anything else that I didn't ask you today that you are either excited about, something that you're following closely, you want to share with us?
I am really excited that I will be going on book tour after the book launches on December 26th. If you want to order a copy, you can get it at richaf.me. And then I will be going all around the country to do signings and meet and greets. And it'll be like the first real Your Rich BFF in real life activation.
How you feel about it, going from online to actually meeting people that follow you and like you for your content in person?
I get stopped quite a bit already in the street, and people have been nothing but wonderful and nice and kind. But we'll see. We'll see what it is like when it's not just a one-on-one interaction that's like 2 minutes long, but like a true meet and greet. And I think it'll be good. I think the BFFs are some of the best people on the internet.
Again, best of luck for the book launch, for the tour. I'm very curious, like to see what is going to happen there again from offline and online. And thank you for sharing all your knowledge with us today, Vivian.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me.
This was the Influence Factor by the Influencer Marketing Factory, and I'll see you next week.